Hey, greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Sing a song. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Sing a song before they burn it down.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. Welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program. There's a lot going on with issues about ballots here in the state of Texas, ballot secrecy, ballot security, sequential balloting. And I think a lot of people are starting to, really lose confidence in the electoral system here. Well, we're going to take time to talk to someone that is really on the forefront of what is happening here, and that's Barry Wernick. Barry attended the University of Texas, focused on international relations, and earned his Juris Doctorate from SMU, Dedman School of Law in Dallas here. Barry is currently serving his second term on the State Bar of Texas ADR Council. He is, as we know, an attorney, a mediator, and also an arbitrator. Barry, welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So let's talk about your background. What got you involved in local politics here in Dallas County?
Well, I'm a local boy. I mean, I grew up here, went to school here as a child my whole life. And I guess I really started to get involved with city council, so on the city level. And I just wanted to raise my family in that same, I always look back nostalgically as this bucolic, beautiful Dallas that I grew up in, and things were changing. And this was all during the whole Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all the rioting. And while they're burning down cities, literally burning down small businesses, I'm watching our leaders, instead of doing something about it, we're actually backing them up.
Yeah. I finished my military career down in Fort Hood, Texas, and folks, it'll always be Fort Hood. I don't know about these other names, but, moved back here to the Dallas area. I live out in Garland 10 years ago. You grew up here. What differences have you seen from the time when you were born and raised in Dallas to now, where you're married and you're raising your three daughters?
Oh, well, there's a lot.
Well, let's go.
Thinking about times growing up and riding your bike out and riding through the streets and not worrying about really much except when dinner was, and when you heard, mom clanging on the triangle, that big, it's time for dinner, and you came home trying to get home before nighttime. That was basically it.
Yeah.
I mean, but we were out all day. And now I think, especially during that period where people were, it was dangerous. Started wondering what's going on here. That this is not the same city I grew up in as far as respect for the police, and defunding the police, things like that. It showed something that had changed. It just wasn't the same. We had reduced our numbers in police, and the security that you want for your family.
Yeah.
I went to SMU Law School, but after SMU, I actually moved to New York, moved to Florida, moved to LA. I moved all over the place before I actually found my Texas sweetheart, came back home, moved. She was not a Texas cheerleader at the time that I met her, but she was. I mean, this is like everything. I'm like, okay, now I'm back home.
Yeah.
Now I can settle down. This is where I want to settle down. Not New York City, not Miami, not LA, not Moscow and everywhere else I live. No, I want to settle down this beautiful, safe and secure city, and where people were nice and waved to you and said hello, and you shook each other's hands, and you weren't fearful of the other person. You felt a community. And that was something that we were starting to lose. And that's why I felt, let's get back to the basics. And I'm going to run for office. And I ran for city council, and won in the general, went down to a runoff and lost by, it was very close. And, but that's when I really started to see that I can make a difference. And yes, it's important to win, but sometimes when you don't win, there's a lot there that you can actually do and make even a bigger difference, which takes me to running for state rep just a couple years later.
Yeah, you get a platform, and I think it's very important that so many people get focused on, I got to win this election, but they fail to realize that now all of a sudden you have a name and face recognition, you have a platform, you have credibility and validity in the community. Let's talk about education also. I mean, when you look at what's going on here in the Dallas area, where all of a sudden they're more so focused on agendas than really educating our kids and being able to read and do math at grade level, things of this nature. Is that a big concern for you as well, being a dad?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, education is, well, it's crucial to any city if you want to, or any place, you want to bring jobs to a city, you want to have an educated workforce. But really important to me was the fact that I started seeing indoctrination instead of education.
Hmm.
And that really shone its light when we were going through the COVID experience. And I saw my three girls now, one is 12, 11, and 8. So it's a few years ago, but watching on Zoom, it was sort of the transparency is the best inoculation because now I'm seeing what's going on here. And here the whole time I'm telling my kids, off the screens, off the screens, off the screens. And now I got to tell them, on the screens, focus on that screen. It's kind of like, wait a second, mixed messages. But not only that, I started to notice what was important. Was it 2 + 2 = 4? Or was it, if you answer 2 + 2 = 5 and you mess up, is it more important to find out, well, what's going on at home? And that's what I started to see in these technology programs, actually, that the kids were actually learning from. It wasn't just about getting the right answers. It was about, well, how did that make you feel?
It was data mining.
Right.
In many ways, and all of this emotional, social learning that we're hearing about.
Yeah, that was something I definitely, my wife and I both looked at and said, it's not about let's get the kids to understand that 2 + 3 = 5. The next question shouldn't be, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
It should be maybe 3 + 3. What is that? 6.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got it wrong, it shouldn't be, do you have problems at home? And we did see that. And I was like, you know what? We did the knee-jerk reaction, but it was a good reaction. And we homeschooled our kids. So after that experience, we went through homeschooling.
It's interesting because, when people look back on COVID, I think the only good thing that came out of it was that parents who have somewhat been detached from their kids and the education system, now all of a sudden came home,
Well,
literally.
oh,
And
yeah.
as you said, that transparency helped them to realize, oh, time out on the court. This is not what I want to be happening for our child. Do you think that government agencies, being at the local level, are they responsive to us as citizens? Are they out there really trying to serve us as the constituents, or they
No.
got their own agendas?
Yeah, it's pretty apparent they have their own agendas. Very rarely do you see some public service people who serve the actual public. It seems like once they get it, and maybe, you know what, people start out with good intentions, but once they get there, they realize, well, what is in it for me, or how do I stay in power, and start making decisions that aren't best for their constituents, that maybe they start wondering, well, what's best for me?
The self-interest and the special interest.
There you go. Or the special interest, right?
Yeah.
Or, the people that are giving me money. And it doesn't necessarily mean, I always bring this up to people, just because someone gave someone, or a group gave, or a candidate or a politician money, it doesn't necessarily mean that politician is actually just going to follow along with the money that was sent them. And the example I give is, the NRA gives Ted Cruz who knows how much money. They're not doing that because they believe that they need to get Ted Cruz to somehow support the Second Amendment. No, he already supports the Second Amendment. So a lot of organizations will give you money if they see that, oh, this guy's on the right side of the issue.
Especially constitutional issues.
Constitutional issues, for sure.
So let's talk about your growth, because one of the things I believe is that, our founding fathers never wanted us to have a political elite class. They wanted ordinary American citizens to step up and do extraordinary things. What have you learned? How have you grown in being a candidate for, Dallas City Council and also candidate for Texas State House?
Well, as I mentioned before, actually losing the election has, I think, given me more of an ability to represent my constituents and actually follow through on ideas, things that I put forward as my number one priorities in what we're talking about now with election integrity and voter privacy and secrecy of the ballot. Election integrity is my number one issue, restoring confidence and trust in our election system.
Mhm.
And I started to think, well, had I won the actual election, then I'd have to wait to get down to the legislature, and I'd be dealing with these issues that people voted for me because these were their number one issues too.
Mhm.
And I'd have to deal with 149 other legislators. Now I lose, and now I can I'm not relying on 149 other people. Who am I relying on? Just my constituents, my supporters who are backing me every step of the way. And if they're going to say, hey, let's do this, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because these are still people that I feel like I need to represent and move forward with. And that's what we've done actually since my election.
I think it's so important. One of the things that I try to stress is that you have to have a better informed, a better activated, being educated and better activated constituency if we want to see a difference made in, our governing bodies, because this is about participating. Plato once said, I think it was Plato said that one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you'll be governed by your inferiors. Do you see an awakening now amongst the constituency? People that maybe 4 years ago, 8 years ago, they kind of tuned out, not engaged. You think more people are becoming engaged?
I think so. I think they're becoming more engaged because people are actually listening to them. So when people run for office, they're not running for office. In my instance, whether it was city council or state rep, I didn't say, oh, I got to do this. No, people told me you have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you answer a call to do something, then you're listening to the people that are telling you what is it that they need. They need a voice. And if you can be that voice, they're not looking for necessarily a leader,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's going to not listen to them. No, someone who will convey the message and be that messenger for the people. And when people see that you have someone out there, and there are several, I mean, you for yourself, people called you to action. We need you to serve as our county chair. And when we feel like we have someone who's listening to us, then we start listening to, well, what are the issues? Because now I can learn not just about my individual issue, maybe there are other issues too.
Super. Now, one of the things that you did mention is confidence in electoral systems. And when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the things that you found out during your recount and how you're acting on that. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. We've got a special offer from United Patriot Coin. Buy 4 ounces of silver and get your 5th ounce free. With the economy on the brink and a volatile election season ahead, the price of silver is predicted to soar to levels not seen in over a decade. This could be the perfect time to start or add to your silver stack. According to a recent report by the Silver Institute, global demand for silver is projected to hit 1.2 billion ounces by the end of the year, making it the second highest level on record. When demand rises, the price tends to go right along with it. So act now to take advantage of this potential price surge. You don't want to miss out on this one. Build your silver holdings before the price jumps and ride the wave as the market goes up. Take advantage of our limited time offer to get a free ounce of silver when you buy 4 silver rounds at the regular price. Visit UnitedPatriotCoin.com. Check out the different designs, then call when you're ready to place your order. And make sure to mention me or vault code WEST5. That's WEST5 when you call. The site is UnitedPatriotCoin.com, or skip that step and just call their order line at 844-202-7834 to find out what designs they have this week. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Steadfast and Law program. We're sitting here with Barry Wernick. He is a lawyer, a mediator, an arbitrator. He has also run for Dallas City Council and Texas State House. Now, you were involved in a recount election for the Texas State House. It was a pretty narrow race. I think it was like, less than 400 votes or so. What was that like going through that recount? What were some of the revelations that you saw?
It was it was definitely eye-opening.
Mhm.
The initial reason for the recount was it was close, and also in Texas we do have one of the prerequisites for a recount isn't necessarily the margin of the votes, but it's the fact that you're using electronic voting systems.
Mhm.
So just that alone is a reason enough that the
Electronic
legislature.
voting systems that Elon Musk just came out a couple of weeks ago saying he doesn't have any trust and confidence in.
That's it. So, and just that alone, our Texas legislature obviously understood that that's one reason enough to just call for a recount. And in Dallas County, we had an interesting situation where our central count accumulator, which is, well, it's the little laptop that actually counts up all the votes that you put the flash drives in from all the different polling locations.
Mhm.
It wasn't hash validated, meaning it wasn't the Secretary of State. And we see from Chevron, a lot of these administrative agencies are kind of playing with, I guess, the power that they've been given. And they said this is assumed power.
Yeah.
That, okay, these are certified machines. When in fact, in Dallas County, the actual central count accumulator had not been hash validated. It wasn't certified since 2019. And I always tell someone, that's 5 years ago. My cell phone, I update every week. I mean, I get a notification or something. It's like overnight, you let it update. So this is what we're trusting to count our votes. That combined with the fact that election night, I'm noticing that we're not getting results from Dallas County. My race, everywhere else in the state, I'm seeing numbers coming in from this precinct, that precinct. And my race, it's sort of like every hour or so, I'll get a summary report, a PDF or something. But you didn't have the actual tracking. And then on one of the local news stations, they said that Dallas County seems to be having problems counting the votes. We'll have more information on that tomorrow.
Now, it's interesting because as I was sitting back watching this, the decision to use that central accumulator was made the Monday night before the Tuesday election, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I don't remember when exactly that happened, but it was during, I think, early voting or something.
Yeah, it was right after, but
so-
it was a non-standard decision
Oh, right.
because you have the normal tabulators that are used that have been, verified, going through the hashtag verification. So now you're going through the recount, and this is in the primary election, GOP primary election. So now you're going through the recount. What are some of the things that you're finding there in these ballots and in these boxes?
Well, this all, it started out with, I think, one of the first ballot boxes that we were about to open up. There are seal certificate logs that the judges sign. So chain of custody. You know that, okay, there are the serial numbers for the seals on the ballot boxes. So they should match. And we noticed right off the first ballot box that we were opening up, pretty much, thousands of votes in there. And the serial numbers don't match the seals on the box. Now that's a major chain of custody issue. The reason you're writing it down is so that you can assure the other people who are counting that that there is no chain of custody issue. So we saw numerous instances of that. So it wasn't just on the first one. We saw instances where ballot boxes, remember, these are from polling locations with thousands of votes. The actual seals are missing. So anyone could have gotten into these boxes. We noticed that we're using the same key for every single ballot box. So every ballot box, you could go to Ace Hardware or wherever, make a copy. You got the same key for all these plastic ballot boxes. We noticed numerous examples, I can't tell you how many hundred, but where judges' signatures were missing from the ballots themselves. Now, according to Texas election code, that is an invalid ballot. You can't count that. But they're being counted. So we see that. We see missing ballots. We see ballot card chain of custody logs that are missing hundreds, sometimes thousands of ballots. Where are they? But as we're going through this and seeing,
problem when we don't have the sequential ballot numbering. That's one of the things that we see here in Texas, and something that you just recently saw the Texas Secretary of State's office correct, because they had issued a waiver to that, a waiver to the Texas
Mm.
election law, which last time I checked, as you were saying, when could an agency, unelected bureaucrats, waive law?
Well, this is something that they've been doing with Texas elections for quite a while now. What I noticed, the reason for these chain of custody issues, um, was the fact that we have what's called countywide voting.
Yes.
And so countywide voting is a situation where a voter is not assigned to his or her precinct in a polling location within his precinct, or a combined precinct. Sometimes you don't have a polling location in your precinct. So maybe you get 5, 6, 10 precincts that all go vote to this at the same place. Well, as a result of countywide voting, it makes auditing that election, which we found in our recount, a mess. It's just a complete mess. It's hard. It's impossible
It's hard to
prove,
reconcile.
and you can't even prove anything. If they say, "Well, how can you prove that the seals weren't knocked off in transit and that someone actually went in and pulled ballots or did something?" Well, you can't. It just becomes a messy. It's almost as if it was designed. The idea of countywide voting under the guise of getting more voters out and franchising people.
It was going to be easy.
It's going to be ease and convenience
Yeah.
over our constitutional rights
and accuracy
of being able to audit and having ballot secrecy. So we have a constitutional right to have secrecy of the ballot. What we found out, one of the things, and I thought, you know what? Forget about contesting my race. That was never about this. This is about the election. This is about the election system, exposing flaws if we find any, and fixing it before November, because we've got a big election in November, obviously. So it wasn't about my race. It's about how do we protect our elections, and of course, on a personal level, the Republicans. And what we noticed was, as we opened up these ballot boxes, is that there were single votes from single precincts. You'd see a ballot that was the only ballot from that precinct. Another one, the only ballot from that precinct. Well, you know the vote roster, you know where these people voted, and it's very easy to put together, well, there's a ballot, that must be this voter. If it's the only guy from this precinct there. We were able to, this is from the recount, we were able to find about 18,000 voters in Dallas County whose ballots were not private. Over around 150,000 across the state of Texas. This became a lot bigger, like I said, than just my race. This is an election system issue, and there are 18 states right now that currently either offer or require countywide voting. And so what our goal as a recount team, poll watchers, what we started to do and decide, you know, this is the number one issue, is get rid of countywide voting before November.
So let me get this right. You have actually been able to backtrace, or however, a process by which you can marry a person to a ballot, and you know.
Absolutely. It's an exact science. It's not any process of elimination or anything. You know the voter roster, you know where the person voted, and you need to know this because it's federal law, it's state law. And what is it? We have to be able to audit our elections. If you can't audit an election, then that election, it's going to be subject to some pretty corrupt individuals, groups, organizations who actually love the fact that you can't audit it.
It's interesting because recently we have seen reports of the former Republican Party of Texas Chairman Matt Rinaldi. His ballot has been for the current U.S. Congressman District 32, who is running for Senate, Democrat, Colin Allred. People say that they were able to acquire his ballot. How many pretty prominent individuals? I mean, I want, maybe you got mine. I don't know.
Okay, you were a good man. You voted in precinct or close to home. And that's what we keep on telling everyone. That's our number one public awareness campaign right now. Because if we can't get rid of countywide voting.
South Garland Library, baby.
There you go. Vote in precinct or close to home. Well, we found, as you know, I spoke to the election board, the commission board, which consists of the county tax assessor, the county judge, the county clerk, the Dallas County Democrat Party chair, and the Republican county chair. And of those 5 people, I had 4 of their ballots. Okay, 4 of their ballots. So this is not something that, it's a one-off. No, these are the 4 out of the 5 people who are actually making decisions on our elections in Dallas County. And I actually afterwards I brought up to the county clerk. I said, "Hey, this is pretty big deal, don't you think?" Yeah, but the ease and convenience, and that's the argument you keep on getting, is, well, the ease and convenience of it, that's what we want. That's what we're shooting for. I said, but you're going to take that over your constitutional rights of your ballot secrecy? Well, I've got 220 employees at the county clerk's office, and a lot of them are single parents. This is the argument. I said, okay, so what? Well, they're driving from all over and they want to make it easy. Well,
How
but
easy
you're
is it to go right there by your home
but
in your own voting precinct, which was what my mommy and daddy used to do when I was growing up.
and not only that, if it's that important to vote, don't dock and pay. Tell them go vote and be a little bit late today if that's what you have to do and go in your precinct and not down here. But to say that, the constitutional rights of my employees are not of secrecy of the ballot is not as important as
Ease and
ease and convenience. Which, by the way, we looked at the numbers and we noticed that Dallas County, since we instituted countywide voting, our percentages have actually gone down more than 16%. So it's not the fact that if we got rid of countywide voting, if anything, it wouldn't disenfranchise, it would be enfranchising, because it looks like countywide voting is disenfranchising people.
And precinct level voting, it creates a better system and facilitates the reconciliations. Right
That's
there.
it.
Yeah.
The audit, that's the whole point. If you feel like, oh, well, this is going to be audited, if you knew that the IRS was going to come down to your house and know that, okay, there's a chance that they're going to audit me, I probably will pay my taxes and keep good records. If I know that it's not auditable, then what's the point? And I'll never get caught. And this is something that I think in November, forget the polls, because who cares about the polls if you've got people coming in there now messing with something that you could never audit.
And the thing is that if there is no ballot secrecy, then people can nullify ballots. Am I correct?
Oh, that's right. I mean, well, think about the intimidation also, undue influence, the bribery that's involved in that. That's the whole point that we put that in our Texas Constitution in 1905, 1902, the Terrell Act, because we don't want people to know how we vote or be intimidated to vote a certain way. And right now, think about it. There are a lot of Trump voters out there that maybe aren't your typical Republican voters, traditional Republican voters. But if they know that their ballot isn't secret and they're going out to vote, they may think my woke employer is going to know, right?
Psychological.
Or my friend in my book club might find out, or whatever it is. And so this is a very important thing. We need to get that public awareness. This is really number one, public awareness. Let the people know, because we need to be informed. You can't just get people out there. It's like informed medical consent, right? You need informed voter consent. Know that if you don't vote in your precinct or close to home, there's a good chance that your rights may be violated.
How can people follow what you're doing?
So I don't have much of I'm not in all the different social media places, but I do post on X. So x.com, when I found out that, hey, there's a place where there's actual free speech besides your show. I post on X, and that's Wernick for Dallas, and it's at Wernick, WERNICK, the number 4, Dallas. And you'll see I'll discuss countywide voting, discuss a lot of election issues in threads, and also you can subscribe there or at my website, wernickfortexas.com. And we're doing email campaigns to the Attorney General, Secretary of State, and election administrators to get the word out. Put an end to countywide voting.
Well, Barry, thank you so much for being here on the Steadfast and Law program. And again, go to wernickfordallas.com, at Wernick, because it's important. We got to have secrecy in our ballots. Thanks so much for being with us.
Before they burn it down.